right.
Sorry.
Doug.
Before we dive into the agenda, I just, want to acknowledge the loss of Dick Chamberlain. Just speaking personally, I always really appreciated how Dick just always had such a positive disposition, regardless of the situation. So obviously, our hearts go out to his family and his many loved ones and the people in town and beyond who were impacted by his life.
Oh, well said. Well said. To me, he was the most judicious man that I'd ever met, and always had a kind word.
Yeah.
Great stories.
I would just say as well that I don't think he probably realized this, but I considered him a mentor because I really looked up to his, how he would handle things at a meeting, and I mean, the word moderator, fits him perfectly, and I really did look up to him, and he, in fact, gave me sort of the impetus to get more involved.
Do you, remembering Dick, do you remember the first time he spoke at town meeting in opposition to a proposal? And do you remember what that proposal was?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I thought it was.
They wanted to store nuclear waste in Brentwood.
Oh.
And it was the only time he ever took a position on any sort of agenda item at a town meeting. And I think it's duly justified. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Doug. Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the meeting for expedited site plan review with 6 Hour. Is that you?
That is us. Yeah.
That's us. You wanna,
This chair,
you can come up to this table. Make sure the microphone's on, the red light.
It's a big button right in the middle of the microphone. Just hit that. There you go.
And do you already have their names?
First and foremost, thank you for, I know this is a planned event, but appreciate the time, right? Expedited process. My name is Colin Murphy. I am the Senior Operations Manager at the 6 Hour Academy in SEC. So Nick is a civil engineer, and I'll revert to him for any technical information. The order of magnitude on this project is, I would consider it very limited. It's in terms of new things, there's not a whole lot there, right? So we are merely replacing something that already exists. So on 3 of our ranges, P8, 9, and 10, we have overhead cover currently in place that is old and distressed, right? It's aluminum framing, metal roofing. It's rusted, it's rinkety, it's bent in certain places, and so this would be the pouring of 3 pads, concrete pads. One of the requirements was that these structures be modular in place and be able to be moved should we want to repurpose them or move them in the future. So pads are as permanent as pads can be, but you can see the outline there. Generally 2 45 by 15 feet and a 65 by 15. It's all wood construction, 6 by 6 posts. It'd be metal standing seam, roofing on it. We'll have polyethylene sides that roll down to provide really a better customer experience in inclement weather. The new addition to the cover will be infrared heaters in the ceilings, so when it gets colder, we can go ahead and flip those on. So that is generally it. I would say, from a planning board standpoint, us being a part of the community is probably not always that beneficial, right? We fire guns and they're loud, and I get that. I can't say that would significantly decrease the noise, but we are looking at putting some noise dampening panels in there that don't currently exist. Will that make a difference? I can't tell you that it will. It may. Will you notice it? I don't know, right? But that is generally the nature and scope of the work. It is really just a beautification of something that already exists. And so, first and foremost, I wanted to introduce myself. Maybe you'll see my face in the future. If SIG doesn't fire me, we'll see. But I would rely on Nick for any technical questions you may have.
Is there any lighting being added to this area, like
Nope.
security lighting? Or
No,
anything?
ma'am. No lighting. There's security in place already in the area, but there'll be no lighting.
Other questions? Did you?
What's the maximum number of people firing out of each one of these units?
So it would be a total of 10 plus 2 instructors. That's a total of 12.
Had you already looked at this?
Yeah, I looked at this in advance of our last planning board meeting, just so that I could counsel the board that the only aspect of our expedited review process that they exceed is the overall square footage. We say that it can't exceed 1,500, and this ends up being about 2,100. But as I said at that work session, the expedited site plan review is a site plan regulation that the board can waive for good reason.
Mhm.
And this seems like one of those instances of good reason to allow them to expand that extra 500, almost 600 feet of square footage. So if the board did a motion to this, I would recommend that first they do a motion saying that they are aware that there's additional square feet and that the board is waiving that limitation.
And this area now is already paved?
It's not paved.
it's-
It's just aggregate with stone dust over it and compacted. And there won't be any paving, just the concrete. It will stay in place as it exists now.
Right.
So what is the exact number, not the exact number, but approximately how many extra square feet beyond the allowance? 600?
About 600 square
600
feet.
square feet.
Beyond the allowance for it being an expedited.
Correct.
review.
Correct.
One question I have, and it's really kind of the only question that
Doug?
Oh, thank you. One question I have, because I mean, this seems very straightforward. Do we need any sort of input from the fire department concerning like the gas tanks and the infrared heating or anything like that?
I think there is a requirement for the fire department to come out.
Okay.
So that the propane tank will be offline away from those ranges. The line will be subsurface code, and so they would need to go ahead and inspect that.
Right.
Less off.
Okay.
And that would happen during the building. You're going to get a building permit once this is approved.
Right.
Once this is approved, you're going to get a building permit. One of the issues there that the town looks at is the fire department. So you're well covered.
So you do show the two tanks, though, adjacent to the three sites. So you said you do show the gas tanks just off to the right. Are you saying they're gonna be pushed off further?
Yep, so the plan actually is, okay, that's flipped. So they will be there. This is a HESCO wall. HESCO walls, if you're not familiar with them, are the containers that we build military bases out in Afghanistan and Iraq. So there's not a bullet in the world that will go through them, right? So that's what we use for our barriers and our walls and development of our ranges. So that's where the location of the I think it's one tank now, would go, and then the line would be subsurface to that.
But those tanks are similar to what you see in a residential setting.
Absolutely. Yep.
So the walls aren't on the rendering, or is that something that's out there right now, or?
Yep, they exist now.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to waive the 1,500 square foot requirement for expedited review.
Second.
For an expedited site plan.
Expedited site plan review, I mean.
And I'll second.
any-
In the notice of decision, I will include the specific zoning regulation or site plan. regulation.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion before voting? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
You were the second.
Yeah.
That's it.
Pleasure meeting y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on the-
You need to vote on the actual
plan itself.
application
Yeah.
itself. You
Yeah.
voted on the
Yeah.
waiver.
Yeah.
Now we need to vote on the application.
Right.
Um,
And do you have
Mr.
we
St-
Bruce,
jumped the gun a
Bruce.
little bit.
Mr. Stevens, we need to vote on the application itself.
Okay.
Do you need any other information? No. No. Do we need to put a condition about the fire department in there, or is that just part of the building process?
It's part of the
and not
building
a-
permit process.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve this site plan under an expedited site plan review.
Second.
Any other discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice Thanksgiving. Don't shoot too many turkeys.
All right. We have a letter we talked about last time to go to Tanya Lane residents. And we're going to make one edit in the first paragraph to note that on November 18th, the select board voted to adopt.
To
Road?
accept,
What's that?
to accept.
Yep. Accept. So if you had looked at the version that was emailed, I made a number of changes just to move things around and added, I think the most significant thing was I added the RSA to say that so we're not requesting any corrective measures, but we feel like you should have access to the analysis that was done, and you should be aware that under New Hampshire state law, property owners have continual responsibility for private driveway connections, including structures like culverts, even if in the town right-of-way. And if that causes any problems with the road, it's their responsibility. And I added Mark's phone number and I added your phone number and email address. I added my email address too, but because I'm
I did notice you said contact me, or,
or
Appropriately.
yes, is your personal phone number on there?
my personal phone number is not on.
Marcel is here.
Yeah.
He welcomes.
I'll be sure,
You can always just take a message if you don't
I will
want
be
to.
fielding
Um,
many questions. Yes, so my plan is to go through GIS and get the addresses and then double check that with Adrian. Some of the tax cards may be incorrect, and I want to make sure I'm getting the proper property owners before I send them. Did we decide whether we want to send that via regular mail or return receipt requested?
My personal opinion is that because I think you are correct, there's going to be a lot of questions about this.
Mhm.
So I think it'd be well worth the expense of sending it registered or whatever the other word is. Registered mail.
It might really just be enough to send it registered, not return receipt requested.
So just first-class mail, just regular
No,
75 cents?
Have
registered.
it be registered, and there is a way for you to monitor that, but it doesn't, you don't have to do the green card that comes back.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that would be,
Because the green card really isn't necessary
Okay.
in this instance.
and it saves $1 or $2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that setting on the thing, but I will find it. I'll figure it out.
Priority mail now has tracking, if that's all we need, is tracking.
Does it really?
Mhm.
For just 50 cents?
It's not 50 cents.
I've heard your mandates.
Priority mail, like the envelopes,
Oh.
it's like a flat fee, but includes tracking now. Whatever's cheaper. All right, any other changes to this? Questions, issues? Everybody good with it?
It looks good.
We said we'd do it, so it's
We already said we'd
just
do it,
really better
so
to do it sooner than later.
there's the edit about the select board. Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
13 what?
No, the approval is for 14.
Correct.
I don't think they're all built. There may be another one left to build.
All right, next item should say stakeholder.
Did you want to put that to a
Event.
motion, or how do you want to roll?
Do we need to vote? I mean, I think we voted last time to send a letter. So if everybody's good with it, we need to vote.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote.
Do you want to make a motion? Make a motion to accept the letter and send to the residents?
Sure. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There we go. It's
Okay.
giving Mark more work.
Hmm?
It's giving you more work.
No, I mean, the way I do my minutes, it usually only contains the
Decision.
motions,
Yeah.
because when the board as a whole makes a decision, it should be in the form of a motion. If someone disagrees with it, then they can say nay to that motion. But you guys all agreeing on it and me looking around, that's my interpretation of you agreeing to it. When there's a motion, there's no interpretation at all. I just put your vote down.
All right. Steph, do you want to talk about the next one?
Sure.
And not, but charrette.
I mean, I get there's a little bit of negative connotation with that, but I think a lot of people find them to be positive.
Yeah.
And that's what the program is called. So if we were to move forward with it, like, there's no avoiding that word at some point. So the organization Plan New Hampshire, I think a lot of us on the board are familiar with it at this point, but for the benefit of the public or anyone tuning in, they are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Their mission is to improve the built environment in New Hampshire. Essentially, I may be getting the wording wrong, but that's the gist. They conduct, among many things that they do in their advocacy, one of their big programs is they conduct workshops in communities in New Hampshire, which they call charrette. That's like a planning term that's kind of like a bit jargony, where they bring in volunteers who are planning and design professionals to come in over a weekend. These people volunteer their time and expertise. Usually the community that the workshop is being conducted in will have submitted an application where they list like a challenge or an issue they face or a particular idea that they want to focus on. And the team will come in, just gather information, do a site walk, hold stakeholder meetings with local officials, business people, residents, just to gather information and get input. And then they'll take the information they gained and apply their expertise and knowledge and make recommendations for things for the community to consider. As some people may remember, Plan New Hampshire came and conducted one in Brentwood a few years ago. The focus was on the rec center, looking at potential improvements at the site itself, as well as ways to better connect it to other town destinations. And basically, at the end of the day, what you're left with is some recommendations, some conceptual sketches and drawings, maybe some high-level cost estimates, like 50-50, suggestions on potential funding sources, next steps, and they will provide a report later on. They'll do a presentation at the end of the weekend session with a quick summary and a slideshow, and then they'll follow up with a more formal report. My personal take on the one that occurred a few years ago. I think there were a lot of good suggestions that came out of it. I think where things may have gone awry, which I definitely take some responsibility as a economic development committee member at the time. The economic development committee was leading the charge. We submitted the application and brought them in. But since it was focused on the rec center, after it was done, there was a little bit of confusion and hesitation of like, okay, who's in charge of this now? And it was a bit of a hot potato. And I think there was a lack of communication and follow-up to the community. So I think people who weren't part of the process were left feeling like, who are these people? Like, we don't want to spend all this money. What is this? We don't want this. And it should have been, let's introduce these recommendations, get more feedback, come up with a plan. And I think that's what did happen. So learning from those missteps, I think we have a great opportunity right now. Plan New Hampshire is conducting a program with these workshops where communities who have been recipients of HOP grants are eligible for an upcoming workshop where the program fee will be waived. This fee is normally $6,500.
That was my question.
Which is what I think we paid before. And then on top of that, there's additional fees for incidentals like meals and lodging for the volunteers, which can be another few $1,000s. So communities eligible for this waived fee are also eligible to apply for a waiver for the additional funds. So in theory, you could get this workshop for free or like very little money. And I think it's really beneficial because it's a team of 10 to 15 professionals volunteering their time for a couple of days. That's, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of consulting. The program fee itself is small compared to what it would cost to actually hire these people to come and do this for your town professionally. And I mean, I think to me it's a no-brainer. Even if we get recommendations at the end of the day, we get feedback from the community, we decide not to move forward with it, what does it cost us but a little time, and gets people together and thinking about things. The one caveat for this particular program, with it being free and focused on the HOP grants, they want you to incorporate housing into the workshop, which I think is fine for us because we're already focused on that. So that's my 2 cents. I think it's a good idea, but it's up to the board, really. So if anyone has any thoughts.
Just on the cost aspect alone, the $6,500 waived, you said, completely? And meals would be provided by us, like last time, because it was about $2,000 when we did the economic.
Yeah, so we could apply for a waiver to have that waived too. There's no guarantee, but
Right.
it seems like likely because there's limited workshops available.
So would our budget cover that?
If we didn't get the $2,000, no, I think we're getting like 500 or so from our existing grant as like a admin. Is it 500 we get back as an admin fee, or is 5%? Which would
We need to take all the invoices so far and total them up and see where we're at. And I think we're really close to
No, but there was, so there's the money to hire a consultant, but then we get 5% as just like a.
well, that goes against, I mean, I think, I could be wrong, that goes against the total of the grant total.
We'll have to look at it. but
If you got a
there's-
grant for 60,000 and then you spent 59,999, you'd have $1 left. So I don't think you can go beyond that and say, well, I want my 5%.
No, but the budget that we submitted was like 50
They did-
something for resilience, 5% for us, and some money to buy
Yeah.
food and stuff. So,
I think resilience has eaten up.
well, they should only be eating up their budget. And they know,
Exactly.
they know what it
believe They are
was.
constrained to only.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we need to,
have a-
we need to total it up. That's
okay.
what we need
I
to
mean,
do.
we have a contract with them and they worked
Yeah.
on the proposal with us, so.
What's our
Um,
timeline on this?
So I have an email from their director. She said, currently we have 3 of these scholarships remaining. For the coming year, we have a workshop scheduled for the end of May and 2 other communities interested in a summer or fall workshop. So they're wondering if we're interested, if we have a sense of when we would want to do a workshop, if we are interested. My understanding is the application period is open until February, I want to say. However, our chances, because it is competitive, are better the sooner we
Sooner.
apply. And they did say they'd be happy to come and speak to us if we're interested in that. They being the Plan New Hampshire team.
So would this be a charrette on housing or? what would-
So I think if we're interested in moving forward with it, we would want to discuss what we would want the focus to be. I personally have some ideas, but definitely willing to spitball with everyone. But it would just need to incorporate housing. It doesn't have to be only housing. It can just be one aspect of it. Like, for example, I was thinking something of interest could be having them focus on our town center zone and provide suggestions or ideas on ways we could get development there or improvements we could make to have it be what we want it to be and help us come up with a vision of what we actually want it to be. And that could incorporate housing considerations.
The other thought is, what can we do with this that would help individual residents so that they walk away with something? Because I think one of the challenges is going to be to get people to come, because I think it took a lot to get like that group of people to come last time. So I don't know if there's anything we can do with like ADUs where we can talk about, you know, what they can look like and how you can incorporate them in your property, or how you could, you know, do adaptive reuse in a larger building on the commercial zone or something.
Like, I think the vote in March will be kind of a bellwether as to how people feel in general. You know, maybe if it's not until fall, they'll give some people time after town meeting, but it's probably going to be a fairly hotly contested and argued decision on how people will vote on these zoning changes that we're proposing. So to back that right up as close, you know, to May, or try to put it in May, maybe kind of a short period of time, depending on how receptive they are. If they're very receptive, it's great. If you have a very negative response from townspeople as to these proposed changes, you know, I kind of question if having one this fall is a great idea. But
You don't
Well,
want to
the next-
confuse
next-
anybody either.
Next fall.
Well,
would
next
be
fall.
Like 2026 stuff.
Yeah, it would be fall 2026.
okay, so that gives you a little buffer between the, you know, the March vote and the decisions of townspeople on where they. I
I
mean, they'll be
think-
talking about where they want our town to go just based on the way they vote on these proposed changes.
Yeah, I think there's already one scheduled for May, so if we were to pursue it.
It'd be
would
further out,
It would
yeah.
be either summer or fall.
Liz has got a question.
You can come sit with us, Liz.
My feeling was with the last charrette that I was fairly involved with, you know, I wasn't on one of the committees at the time, but I thought they didn't take into consideration enough of the town input. And it was sort of these outsiders. I did not have a good feeling about that whole process. So, and I wasn't alone in what I felt. I thought it was too much outside and not enough Brentwood. So I'm with Bruce on this. I'm not, I mean, I'm really not in favor of doing another one, but I'm certainly not in favor of doing it before we find out how the townspeople want to.
Yeah.
It just wasn't enough of
Is there,
the Brentwood input, I thought.
Yeah, is there anything that you think we could get out of, like Steph said, tens of thousands of dollars worth of consultants?
But if they're consultants that don't, I feel like don't know who we are, because they come from more city places or more, it just sounded like a lot of stuff that wasn't Brentwood.
Well, I think in their defense, they tried to get take as much input as they possibly could. And somebody has to kind of come up with consolidate the ideas that they heard expressed.
No, I get that, but I felt like they didn't. I remember the archery being the thing that they did incorporate in some of their pictures and things, but in terms of some of the things that the townspeople said were most important, like bathrooms and, that kind of thing, it just didn't seem like, parking in bathrooms was the priority, which was what the priority at the rec center now, which may be a police station. So it might all change too. That's the other thing. There are a lot of things changing. I do like the idea of maybe the ADU or something like that, because that is one of the housing options that I'm very in favor of, because I think that's, if you have ownership, I think people with home ownership, even if it's a little house, is that people tend to keep up their properties better. So that's one of the few housing changes that I think is really positive for our town. So that would be well received.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be any downside to going ahead and applying for that, because we wouldn't actually be setting the detail of that program until sometime after town
Yeah.
meeting, I would.
I mean, maybe we can give them that feedback too about how some people felt about
I just
last
felt
time.
overwhelmed by outsiders.
Maybe we could try to see if there's a way of implementing a step before the conclusions and recommendations where we work together with the attendees to prioritize some of the items. It sounds like, I mean, from my recollection, they incorporated bathrooms and parking, but you felt like it just was a
I felt like it was
afterthought.
just, like there wasn't, they got a clear idea of the archery, but that was conveyed to them too. But
Mhm.
it might have been the sessions I attended, but I felt, like I said, I felt overwhelmed by outsiders. That's what I felt
It's
like.
kind of the point of a charrette is to think out 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And if we're going to have that long of a vision, you shouldn't just have bathrooms and parking.
No, I know,
Like,
but
if
I'm
that's your
just talking
50-year
about.
vision is bathrooms and parking, that's what they wanted to get out of people at that charrette. Long-term goals that you could start planning for, not necessarily moving to if you so choose. But that's the whole point. I think we didn't need a charrette to figure out we needed bathrooms.
I also think that it was a lot more expensive than, because there was like 9,000 from this area and
No, it's
3,000,
super cheap.
3,000,
I think it's
was it
like 6
9,000
grand.
total or something?
I think it's 6,500, 6 grand?
6,500 is the program fee, and then
Wow.
there's an additional
Yeah.
2,000 to 3,000 for
For
meals.
people
and
staying
lodging.
overnight and Exeter or whatever, yeah. Anyway,
So,
it's just-
so that's what, I think that was some of the feedback that we got too, was that people have immediate concerns, so thinking, it's like, why are we spending resources thinking about 50 years from now, like, and that's what I'm kind of trying to get at with, what can we give residents that, after that weekend or when something comes back, that's like, oh, this is something that is useful to me that
Yeah, or
I
I could get behind
able to
or
use.
something, not like pie in the sky.
You
kind of
ask an
stuff.
extremely valid question.
Do you have your hand up?
I did. I didn't want to talk until the actual residents of town had talked.
Fire away.
Do any other planning board members need to talk right now?
No.
No need.
All right.
We open it
So-
up to the public first?
So what I would love, because I've worked a few times with charrette professionals through Plan New Hampshire. I would love to go a little bit further than what you're saying, because I think that would be beneficial to have some sort of guidance, even maybe a local manual about ADUs. I would really like us to spend time looking at our site plan review regulations in guidance for what developed properties could look like. We have really rudimentary ideas. But if we had a staff of professionals that work on development of sites, really thinking about what multifamily structures should look like.
Like we could focus on 125.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Renderings and
Exactly.
concepts.
Ideas of integrating real guidance on landscaping and lighting and site building placement. Those are things that really sophisticated regulations do incorporate so that developers aren't at a loss for what the town wants to see. And we don't have any of that. And some of the better developed communities, even in New Hampshire, where there isn't a lot of primary interest in telling a developer how to develop their property. But we should give them this guidance. Every single time Joe Falzone comes in with one of his old projects, I always said, they're always ugly because all he's doing is stacking things along the road in a really monolithic way. They're not going to do that thinking, but if we have that thinking in our regulations, they are going to incorporate it. And we just don't.
Yeah.
And even the degree to which a community has the right to say that there'll be open space, landscaped areas on all commercial lots. If you look at Stratum, their development motif requires quite a bit of thought about what the final site is going to look like. And I would love to say that I'm capable of doing that, but there are people way more capable of doing that. And if we can, even for a weekend, have a group of professionals that is their back pocket expertise, why wouldn't we do that?
So is that within their scope?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. They
That's
are
very
so
Yeah.
qualified.
That's very.
So would it be advantageous to ask them to come in prior to, so we can go through that?
I'm just a little worried about timing, that they've got three
Yeah, I know.
slots, so.
But if we applied, that we don't necessarily have to set the agenda now, correct? And we can put the application in for the program.
Do we have to
Well,
write a narrative, though, about what we want?
We have to do a narrative.
Yeah.
They want to know the kind of
He
things
has to
that we-
kind of nail down the scope. I mean, we could, I don't know how busy our upcoming meetings are. We could invite them and soft pedal these ideas and get the temperature if they think it's competitive or something.
Because I'm happy to outline a scope of the kinds of things I would like to see some guidance on.
Mhm.
And it just seems community-wide, it would be beneficial to have that discussion as a community. Because do we really want, and I'm not picking on Starkey, do we really want our commercial developments to just look like a metal building on a lot with whatever lighting they choose to put on?
Blinding, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is much more we could do.
Yeah.
And this group really is adept at that.
All right.
Yeah, maybe the focus area could be the 125.
Right,
development
I'm not
corridor.
trying to pull away from the village,
No, I mean, that's
Town
equally
center.
as important, probably more important because it's gonna happen.
I think it's more
sooner.
immediate and more practical, and
and we can incorporate whatever ideas into the town center
Yeah.
ordinance.
And just kind of
But that's a great idea. Keep it that focused. If we just turn it up loose as to what do you envision Brentwood in 50 years?
Nobody's gonna have a
No,
clue.
just-
Nobody's
And
gonna
I
have a
think
clue.
the public, I optimistically think they would support this because in all the surveys, they wanted to concentrate development on 125 and
Very true.
there's the messaging, like, we don't want it to be like Epping or whatever, so we could say, all right, this is our chance to say what we do want it to be and bring in people who can give us suggestions and, because I think a lot of people are like, I know I don't want it to be that, but I don't know what I do want it
Exactly.
to be.
If we know when you drive down 125 into Plastow, you know that isn't what you want.
Mhm.
But if you're not telling developers what you want, they have, every single franchise place has a design
Mm-hmm.
that they are perfectly happy to get approved because it minimizes their external expenses. And all they think about as far as looks go is what their preordained color scheme is and what the sign's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get exactly what has happened in Plasto and to a lesser degree in Epping.
The new
Then you go to
Verizon
Seabrook.
store with the sign is like, now you drive in that direction, and it's like your eyes are just drawn to it.
Yeah, I think
Anyways.
something that practical makes, sense. And I think, part of the, what you were describing at the beginning is sort of this, bias that came from the last time, because I felt like, we got these grandiose, schemes and ideas that were just, way beyond what people's interest were. And, it almost had this feeling of being like foisted upon,
Mm-hmm.
so it didn't accomplish. Yeah, so, but something like, what Glenn's describing, I think that would be refreshing.
They are really good at that kind of thing. And
Well, that's
and
why I
they
asked
have
the
a lot of
That's why I
experience.
asked the question, because that seems so different than what
They have a lot of
the experience was
with that.
last time.
Yeah.
Because this is what you said, right, Glenn? Guidance on what developed sites could look like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very focused, and it answers a question I think everyone is asking.
Right.
They don't want that, but they don't know really what they want.
And
But 125 is a long
Yeah.
stretch of road in
Mhm.
Brentwood.
And it
Yeah.
has super development potential.
It does.
E-
because-
Even you taking a left on 111A, there's still vacant lots in there that,
And a full 50% of what's on 125 right now is gonna be redeveloped in the next 25 years.
Certainly.
yeah.
From whatever it is now, it's gonna be redeveloped into something else.
So let's
So if
guide
we,
it.
exactly, so why shouldn't we be telling them how that redevelopment should happen?
And I think townspeople will be supportive. They can see something on paper. That's my biggest concern with the upcoming vote in March.
They're not gonna see something.
They don't know, and how do we explain to them what that is? We talked about trying to get at least one parcel that we could get somebody to do some work on. But
Yeah, I reached out to,
Did Wayne
Um,
ever get back to you?
Wayne. It's now been 3 weeks,
He never got back.
and I haven't heard
yeah,
back.
I think we're gonna lose it if we don't have something to
So
show
I will,
them.
on Wednesday, of next week.
Well, I
I'll
mean, I
reach
don't
out
mean
to
it's
him
not
again.
your.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it is really important that we're when we're in the public, hearing process, to be able to show something.
What's it, if you gave us each a blank sheet of paper around the table and said, we're gonna spend 10 minutes and write down what you think that these new ordinances are going to advocate for, I think you're gonna get 10 different answers here. And so you can't expect the townspeople being concerned. We don't really know what's going on. We hear we're going from, to up to six.
Right, from no multifamily.
Apparently, and they're just gonna
to-
say no.
I may be more optimistic, and I think I've said this before, it's incumbent on us to do the education.
Well, that's my next question before we wrap up tonight.
Yeah.
I have some questions about that.
Doug?
Well, so two things. One on, because it feels like we're kind of in agreement in terms of the potential utility of the charrette. So like in terms of next steps, are we in agreement that we maybe want to invite the Plan New Hampshire folks to come? Or, because it seems like we're in agreement, but I just kind of want to ascertain like what next steps are going to look like.
if we're all on board for the 125 approach, we may not need them to, I mean, they could, but we could skip ahead to just work on the application.
If Glenn can write a little outline,
I think
I
we
was
work
just
on
gonna
the
say,
application,
Yeah.
if Glenn,
honestly.
and then.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
we get that to them, and if they have any problems with it, they're gonna get right back to us.
mm-hmm.
And I would say if you could
Yeah.
get it done next couple of weeks, we'd just send it in.
Yeah.
Send it
Yeah.
I
in.
agree, we
And
could
we
vote on it
absolutely
next
can, because
meeting.
I've thought about this for a long time. So there
Yeah.
are,
How come you're only sharing it now?
That's what I was gonna
because
say.
nobody has been offering money. And if they're offering services at a discount price, we're crazy not to utilize it.
Yeah. And also, just to kind of circle back on the rec thing, I think part of the confusion and misalignment there was probably the application that was submitted. They read it and they thought that's what we wanted was a long-term vision. And maybe some people in town did want that, but the people who attended and were looking for a more short-term plan, and there was a disconnect there. So we can learn from that and be very tight in our scope of what we write in this application, make sure it's what we really want.
Yeah, and if you don't mind doing that, Glenn, I think that to be that focused, it would be very important.
Doug?
It could help.
So if I may, I have a motion and then a comment that's related to what Bruce was starting to touch on. But I'll make a motion to empower Glenn to put together the narrative and move forward with the
Yeah,
application.
I'm gonna work with Steph on that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy
yeah,
to.
yeah.
You can provide the technical language and I can pull it together.
That would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
But my motion is to authorize that process to move
Do we
forward.
need a motion for that? I mean, isn't he gonna come
Yeah, we
back
just
to us
talked about
anyway?
that. It's
Yeah.
good to,
Yeah.
It's good to have him.
well,
Perfectly
what
fine.
you're saying is go ahead and submit it.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
Or
not
authorize
even, not
him to
even
submit it.
come back to us with what
No.
he's gonna submit?
I think we might want to have like a round of.
That could be emailed
Review.
out. Or can email that to.
I think if Steph and Glenn do it and Madam Chair reviews it, that should be enough.
No, I just meant you could send out to everybody, because if Liz is saying everybody should be aware of what they're signing off on.
Oh,
You know, that's reasonable, but as far as,
Yeah,
no, that's
Yeah.
I have
fine.
no problem.
That's fine. I don't.
And
have
I don't think that my motion precludes that from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just getting the
You can
ball
add it.
rolling.
Exactly.
You can add it, Doug.
I think we will have to look at, I don't know if this needs to be contingent on getting the money also for the meals and lodging, or if we can look at the money that we brought in this year from the grant that was just for us. Or we could go to some businesses and fundraise and ask them to cover that. But I feel like that's kind of across the bridge when we come to it. If we don't get that money, then we'll have
Yeah.
to talk about whether or not we can move forward or how we could get the money.
Yeah, hopefully we can.
Maybe we could, force their hand. We'd love you to do this, but if you're not gonna give us both, it's not gonna happen.
I mean, that's
but
pretty,
but don't be too greedy at the outset.
yeah.
yeah.
Step by step.
Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Can I read
Questions?
kind of the motion that I kind of put together, just so we're all on the same page? Motion by Mr. Marino to allow Glenn and Steph to work together on an application to it's Plan New Hampshire, correct? Plan New Hampshire for a charrette focused on Route 125 site plan regulations.
Yes.
Seconded by Steph. Good.
Public comment?
You good?
Just, I don't know if it's site plan regulations or, because you said it more like what developed sites could look like. Is that regulations?
Well, yeah, that's, you want
Okay.
to manipulate your
That's the way we would-
regulations.
That's the way we would put that
Put
into
it out
action.
there. Okay.
Right, the regs, there's part of that design process.
Yep, okay.
Maybe we can loop in ADUs as part of it too.
Or, I mean, this would touch on housing in the commercial zone, which is required by law currently,
That's a good,
regardless of what our
There are
zoning
some
says.
residences.
yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I don't think you're voting. We're
Good luck.
All right. Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment going off of what Bruce was starting to touch on. I was going to wait till other business, but it feels kind of related. So in terms of the housing warrant articles and, that education piece, we had talked briefly, Kristen, right before the meeting about circulating like either a sign-up genius or something like that for office hours. And then I think it also makes sense for us to maybe circulate like a spreadsheet or something like that of organizations in town,
Yeah.
and we can start assigning out pairs like we've discussed.
Yeah, I will do that. I'm sorry, I said I would do that last meeting, haven't gotten to it.
I think that's a great idea. I don't know if there's some people from Resilience or some money still available. It almost seems like everybody on the board that's going to go out and talk about this to various people, we ought to all be on the same page. And maybe something very simple, like putting together a one-page
Yeah,
outline.
I mean, we have the one pagers from them, but we can,
But if,
we
you
can
know,
make
if you
like
have people
a-
coming to a meeting and you're trying to, you know, bring up the main points of what's going to be on the ballot, if you just hand that to them, then they can ask questions about it.
for the, for going to organizations, I think too, we talked about going in pairs and we would have
Correct.
a slide deck that everybody would use.
And I will say, I mean, I'm very optimistic about it, and this was a little while ago. But Representative Litchfield was gracious enough several months ago to invite me actually to speak to the Brentwood Republicans, which is funny because I'm the chair of the Brentwood Democrats. I'm not sure if the chair of the Brentwood Democrats has ever attended a Brentwood Republicans meeting before, but she invited me to talk a little bit about housing, and Mark, I believe, was there as well. And it was really productive. It was a really, you know, by the end of the discussion, there was a lot of mutual understanding, which people may not necessarily expect in a space like that, you know, where there are differing opinions. And so I just want to throw that out there that, you know, based on that experience, I think that going to and talking to people is crucially important and very, very productive, because I felt like we made a lot of progress during that meeting, and just, you know, getting people to understand what we're trying to do, what our intentions are.
And I think that, I know, I'm sure there are differences, but we generally agree on what we're trying to do. And we're doing things that we had talked about before the law changed, but the reality is still, multifamily is now allowed in commercial, or will be July 1st. And detached ADUs are allowed today under state law. And I know there's some bills repealing that, but the governor signed them. She's not gonna, they're not gonna have a veto proof.
Yeah, no, the bills are
Majority.
absolutely not going to be repealed, and I think, you know, our overarching pitch is, look, this is our golden opportunity to craft an ordinance that complies with state law but works for Brentwood, works for our community.
And if we
Like that
don't,
was
somebody can come and propose something and we're stuck.
Yeah, they will,
Exactly.
they will get a builder's remedy. They will look at our,
Tom said that.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
no,
There's no doubt.
our multifamily ordinance is so unapplicable to the land that's left.
Right, our president.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Our
A judge would have no other recourse than to offer a builder's remedy, because he would look at it as Brentwood has made no attempt to allow this to be done within their town. And that's pretty self-evident to me. And if we don't do it, if we don't do something, that they're gonna build, and it's gonna be way more density than what we're proposing.
Way more.
Way more density.
The education is just the important part. I think if people
Yeah.
understand it, they'll vote for it. But if they don't get a good, it's not brought forth to them in a way that they understand it or a way that they can ask questions,
Yeah.
then out of frustration, as evidenced by our community survey, they're just going to write no.
Right.
Could you tell us what a builder's remedy is, for example?
A builder's remedy is a judgment given by a judge saying, you may do the thing that you've proposed. A developer would come in with a plan, almost like a site plan review for the planning board, and he would review it and go, here you go, you can build that.
It would come from a.
Doesn't matter what the zoning, doesn't matter what the regulations are in Brentwood. It's allowed in that zone, it's allowed there by right. They have offered no way of you to actually do what we've mandated them to do. So give us your plan of what you want to do, and they sign off on that plan, and then you have no recourse whatsoever. You have to allow them to build whatever's on that plan.
I mean, there would be a threshold that a court would have to find, that there was, arbitrary and capricious action on the part of the town.
Well, our regulations don't currently allow multifamily in
Commercial zone.
the commercial zone, so.
Right.
And there'd be limits, like,
That in and of itself,
yeah,
there would have to be some sort of threshold finding.
Yeah.
That we acted in an arbitrary or capricious manner. I think that's what Mark's talking about.
Right, you go through the Superior Court as a case before the Superior Court. It wouldn't be just a builder drawing up a plan and going down. and
Oh, it'd be a
nailing
long
it
and
in.
drawn out process.
Right.
That'd
But
be a hearing, but.
Yeah.
Right.
Be a hearing, there'd be lawyers,
all right.
Lawyers.
yeah, legal memos, briefs.
lawyers-
Okay,
That's
consent agenda.
Yeah.
And I would like to thank Mark for, he's done a lot of work lately, going through old records and reconciling things that were not being tracked. And looking at, checks that have come in and bills that have come in, and I know there's more to do.
We're,
But
yeah,
thank
there's
you.
a lot more, there's a lot more to do, but we're on the path to success. So what you'll find in the packet is the same thing you found at the last meeting. You find the check, you'll find the invoice attached, you'll find your consent agenda. I had to scribble out the Tanya Lane number because I did get a check and his escrow account has been brought up to current. It's actually a balance of $431 in that account right now. Okay? In the back of the consent agenda, you will find the receipt for the NHMA conference that I attended. And in the very back, I will always try to keep a current expense and encumbrance sheet for your budget. Why couldn't I think of the word budget? So, and it will be current, and so you can see where you are within your budget with every consent agenda.
And you're gonna look at the grant and make sure we've sent out all of our reimbursements. And I think we paid for food out of it and out of our budget, but that money will come back, but
Yeah.
probably we're gonna have to figure out how to,
It went under miscellaneous, I believe, in the budget here. Hold on.
but we're not negative because we will get that money, but it.
Yeah, correct.
It's
And-
gonna
and
go somewhere, it's gonna go into the general fund.
I will figure that out and have that removed from the budget when the
Okay.
time comes.
And I met with the town administrator and we talked about the fees that we collect and where those have gone. They go into the general fund, but that we figure out how much we've collected and where it is. And in the future, we track all of that so that we can say, this year, the planning board brought in X dollars.
Yeah, but that's going to have to go into the general fund. It helps alleviate the expense of Glenn and myself, all the printing and postage, and because right now that kind of gets lumped into the general fund, because when I do my postage, it just goes through the machine. So we're on a road to success. It's a bit of a slow road, but this is the beginning of that. If you could just sign down here, I forgot to put the lines in, the signature lines, so we'll have to free flow it today.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You're absolutely welcome. It's my pleasure. We'll start putting these all together. If you want, I can kind of go through the process that I use for an applicant, if you'd like that.
Yeah,
So when I send you the link to an applicant, I'll just pick a ZBA one that was done recently. I have this upcoming ZBA applicant. So in every file, you're going to find financial. There'll be a financial folder. You'll be able to click on that folder. There'll be a spreadsheet like this one right here that lists out the date that it was created, the property number, the address, the applicable email account, and I shouldn't show the phone number. Sorry, people at home. And then it will show all the expenses and the balance of the account. ZBA is really, because when I get an application, it all goes right to zero. So but that folder is where you'll find, I'll photocopy the checks. When the check is received, you'll find that in there. And this information will be available to all of you within the initial folder that I send you for every applicant. I can show you the one, let's just take Tanya Lane, for instance. It has been a bit of a
Glenn,
hot
you'll
topic.
Submit your bills.
It's green.
You'll,
Oh,
you'll
no.
submit an invoice or two.
Yeah, I have 2 to do.
There it
But I
is.
can't do November till November's over.
So when we look at
Well, it
the
says
Tanya Lane
37%
folder,
is left, so.
it has the folder with financial in it. It has all the bond information inside of it. I have the letter of credit release that I need Kristen and Mr. Kleiman to sign this evening. And all the TEC bond recommendations. You'll be able to see the spreadsheet that's created. You will be able to see all the TEC invoices, all the invoices associated with Tanya Lane.
You've got all those,
They're all right here.
wow,
Yeah, every single one.
that's a lot of work.
Some of these were not available electronically. I had to go into files by hand. I had to scan them, transfer them to files. So the system moving forward will be TEC sends me an email basically with their invoices. I take those invoices, I handwrite out the checks, I put them on the consent agenda. I take those invoices and then transfer them into the individual. I have a main TEC invoice file, and then I copy them to the individual applicants, okay? So on that one thing that I'm gonna send you, you will have all the entirety of information for that applicant, including the financial, including the bond, including their escrow account payments. When they turn to zero, you'll be able to see all that information on hand.
That's a huge improvement. It's actually kind of like business-like. So it's-
Almost,
Mhm.
yes. So I've tried to gear this system, not only make it easier for me to keep track of these things, but also with a level of accountability to you. So it's not just me seeing this information, it's me sharing this information with you. You can be as involved as you want to be, or as little as you want to. But it will be accountability and transparency in the entire system.
Bruce questions all the time.
If you could just sign that one.
Big time.
I'm doing 2 of them, one for the file and then one that I will send to the bank itself.
You need Paul's signature.
Yep.
Paul, this one.
Minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 6th minutes.
I'm not going to read that. I trust that you did it.
I'll second that.
Letter of credit.
Yeah.
Is it on a funny looking piece of paper? Like blue colored?
Not that I remember, but
We'll figure that out on Wednesday.
All in favor?
They want that back.
We're multitasking. So we have a motion from Doug
Minutes.
to approve the minutes.
No,
All right,
came
to approve
from Doug.
the,
Doug Marino,
for the minutes?
Yep.
minutes of 11:06. And a second from Doug
No.
Bennett. Oh, no, from Brett.
Minutes, November 6th.
Any changes to the minutes or any questions?
Who's the second on the minutes?
Hey.
Mr. Renzo.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we do have a public hearing on December 4th on the sign ordinance. Where are we on the RFP?
it's up and posted.
It's, okay. Have you gotten anything yet, or?
It's on the town website.
It's on the town, Jillian put it on the town website and she put it on an HMA's classified.
I looked for it on the town
Yeah, when did
website
she do
earlier.
that?
I gave it to her yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Is
Okay.
it under bid
It should be under
opportunities?
bid opportunities, yes. You don't see it?
Open bids, all, no results found.
RFPs and bids.
No services. No.
Mark, can you check with her?
I will double down.
Right.
Yeah, because I can post it to my LinkedIn, but I think it'd be better if I post a link to the town website
Oh, yeah.
versus just like me posting a Word document.
I think that's
Like, take my word for it, guys.
But
Any,
you-
That
any
makes
other
sense.
business?
Go.
Well, do you want to speak to it? Because, for context, at the select board meeting on Tuesday, Bob Mantajari, during the Tanya Lane discussion, floated an idea for a potential warrant article around our culvert regulations. I'll defer to Doug because admittedly, a lot of that select board meeting is a little bit of a blur for me because it was like 12 hours. But I don't recall exactly what Bob suggested, but yeah.
He just suggested, given the circumstances on Tanya Lane, that we reconsider looking at our ordinance and changing it from the current culvert requirement for cement, going to the possibility of, I believe he said PVC, but
Right.
there's a different terminology on it.
HDP.
Yes.
Ah,
And Stephanie, I think I made mention at the meeting that Steph had indicated that it is used elsewhere. And Bob also made mention that his culvert gave way and he used that replacement because it is long-lasting for a significant amount of time. So it may be, even though, given the circumstances on Tanya Lane, it may be something we may want to consider and bring it forward. He suggested this upcoming meeting.
I'm fine with looking at that. I'm a little worried about putting it up this year, given,
Right, I don't see why it would be a warrant article. So there's two ways that driveway permits or driveways are installed. If it's a subdivision or a site plan, that is bonded by it's a condition of an approval from the planning board. In the case of Tanya Lane, I mean, we did make a mistake there, but that's part of the bonding process. So the selectmen won't actually sign a driveway permit for a subdivision that hasn't yet been accepted by the town. That comes through the process of them building the road and building the right-of-way. And then the town engineer signs off that
we're talking about changing the standard.
Talking about changing the ordinance from concrete to some
well,
kind of substance.
but see, I don't understand, why would we ever want to do that when we've had not one failure in 40 years?
Well, his concern was that we were setting a precedence by accepting this road. And given the circumstances and the fact that it is used in other towns, that we may want to consider it. And I told him there would be an opposition to that.
Yeah, I don't think from what you've told us before, Glenn, that just because a board overlooks something, that is a setting of legal precedent for the,
By all means, it is not.
no way.
Especially the degree to which we investigated this,
That's
Mhm.
determined publicly that mistakes were made.
Yes.
We have a history of 40 roads in town where that isn't the case.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Nobody
Doug
can
made mention that.
So
Nobody can say we
I just
turned
don't
a
understand
blind eye to this.
why if we've got something that works great, that we've never had a failure in 45 years plus, why,
Understand either.
why would we want to do
Bob
that?
Montagari had a failure.
Well, is it, changes in the industry standard? Like, is it,
Well, I mean, concrete just doesn't go anywhere. Now, what Bob may have is a culvert, a driveway culvert, that is on his private property, not within the subdivision.
He
build-out.
claims that he got a waiver. Those were his words,
I did hear variance.
a variance or a waiver. So
I'd like to see that.
I could look at his property file anytime
I mean, it just, I just don't think it makes sense to change our subdivision. So in the case of a subdivision like Tanya Lane, if we, and we all take responsibility for that, if we've been on our game, the select board would never have had a application for a driveway permit for the, over there, because that's covered, that's part of our road building, just like any swale is part of the process, the approved process.
That's when, the only problem is when an applicant gets an approval for a subdivision, puts in the roadway, cuts out the lots, puts in a roadway, and then just sells the lot.
Well, when I couldn't understand why the attorney wasn't back in the planning board up on that. That was a condition of their approval to put in the culverts. It was a bonded item. So
It wasn't a bonded item.
Well, it was, because there's 13, on the bonding sheet for Tanya Lane, it shows 13 culverts.
It does.
It definitely positively does.
I will,
Yeah, look it up. I mean, it's important enough, I think, to look that up. So if that's part of the process, or part of what he's required to do as part of his conditional approval, he would come to the town engineer under the auspices of the planning board and say, this is what I want to do, or my culverts are complete, I want you to approve them, so then I can go ahead and ask that that road be accepted by the town.
So you just adamantly don't think we should make this change?
Well,
at all,
not
even after
in
voting?
terms of our site plan, subdivision and site plan. Now, the thing that people don't understand, or, they just haven't had the history of, like on the Board of Selectmen, is that the town of Brentwood has never required concrete pipe on existing town roads. The process there always did fall under the Board of Selectmen to approve driveway permits for existing town roads. So they're two different things. One of them, the planning board has jurisdiction. Planning board has jurisdiction on Tanya Lane. The select board has jurisdiction on existing new culverts or replacement culverts on existing town roads.
I don't see it there.
I don't either.
Culverts, I can see it's handwritten.
Rip
See, it
wrap.
says 14.
Next to riprap.
What is it, the one?
Under 8, riprap.
Oh,
Yeah.
riprap, driveway culvert.
Driveway
Right, it's
culverts,
handwritten.
14. We talked about this. We actually talked to the attorney about this.
And 14 of them.
Yeah, but she was,
Makes sense since
she was
the
very,
subdivision was for 14 lots.
Exactly.
she was very clear that it would be improper.
Well, I think the mistake made, where the town got into legal jeopardy was when the select board went ahead and signed off on an application, even though it wasn't their bailiwick or their jurisdiction to do it, mistakenly. Everybody made mistakes, all right? And so the Board of Selectmen should never sign off on or never even consider a driveway culvert on a road that hasn't yet been accepted as part of a subdivision plan. So, but I think that's what the attorney was. It took me a long time to figure out what she was saying, but because the town, in error, did go ahead and sign permits.
Oh.
That's where the legal jeopardy came in.
So what you're,
What is the alternative?
that's where I'm going.
What is
How
the
else would that
alternative?
work?
Require that they get driveway permits.
Right, but that's part of, just like putting 2 inches of binder or 3 inches of binder course on the roadway. The culverts are another integral part of the road plan that you can see up there on the screen right now.
It's woven,
So
the
you're-
driveway permit is woven right into our building permit. You can't even apply for a building permit unless you have an approved driveway.
Right, but in the case of a subdivision, what happens is the builder, just like Mr. Felzone, he puts all the culverts in. Then people go ahead and apply for a
And
building
then they
permit.
buy their lots.
But they don't actually get another driveway permit, because in the case of a subdivision, that part of it's already been covered by the planning board process in the bonding.
I kind of see where you're going.
So I-
So what we
want
do
to,
is we'd incorporate the inspection process within the bonding process,
there'd be two.
within the engineer's
Right, there's has to
scope
be.
of review when he
Yes,
goes out and
there's-
does site
there's-
inspections.
There's two different things to consider. One, I would suggest the planning board doesn't have to do anything. As long as we're on our game the next time that a subdivision comes along, We have our requirement for the RCP. It's going to be there. Well, we will be watchful now that the select board doesn't sign any permits, or the select board is going to be aware of, now that they're aware of it, they won't sign any driveway permits for a subdivision that is yet to be accepted by the town. Now, on the other side of it, you definitely need a major revamp of our town driveway permits for existing town roads. And whatever product they want to put in there, in some cases, plastic may be fine. But
So there's a couple separate issues. One
Yes.
is the current process and making sure that both us and the select board know what our roles are and how to follow the process
Right.
properly. And then, things like you shouldn't give a driveway permit if there's for a second driveway if you don't have 500 feet, for example.
For example.
For example.
But there's a separate discussion about the material that's used
well,
for the pipe.
yeah, well, there's two things. There's one set of requirements for subdivision that we've covered before the man even breaks the ground on the subdivision. So the culverts in this case were all taken care of. Had we simply followed what we approved and voted on and bonded for, we would have been fine. This subject would have never come up. The problem was that the road hadn't yet been accepted, and the Board of Selectmen wasn't aware of how the process works. So somebody comes and applies for a driveway permit, they sign off and give them one. But they shouldn't have done that because it's a separate situation than an existing town road. Now, as far as our existing town roads go, we definitely need a total revamp of the driveway permits for that, because right now, people are submitting their check for $30, $40 or whatever it is. They're getting a driveway permit, but nobody then ever goes out to look at it.
Yeah, Chuck
And-
and I are working together to
Yeah.
remedy that, but the first thing we need to do is have an engineer. We put an RFP out, and I would like to have this there's a rule, you're supposed to charge, obviously, we want them inspected properly.
Correct.
But for us to sit here and guess what that amount should be, you're not supposed to be charging fees that aren't justifiable.
Correct.
So what we need to do is talk to our potential engineer and figure out what they are going to need to do that process. And right,
Mhm.
so I just can't make numbers up arbitrarily. I kind of need to talk with them and figure out what they need to do the job properly, and then I can justify that expense, and then we can work that into a new driveway permit.
Let's say, because the engineer really, if somebody applies, like Bob Manicari, for example, if he applied for a driveway permit, the town engineer should go out and, once he gets the application, go out and look at existing conditions, develop the plan, tell him what the specs are, and then most importantly, go back out after completion. And before, that way, there wouldn't be
They don't
a
develop,
final,
they don't develop the plan. The applicant needs to have a plan that they give to our engineer.
well, then the engineer will make changes if necessary. But
Mhm.
most importantly, he'll go out and inspect it.
Yeah.
And you won't get a final occupancy permit for your new home if that hasn't been accomplished.
Well, you can't even get a building permit before you have to get a
Mhm.
driveway permit first, and then you get a building permit.
Exactly.
So that driveway, the access to the potential home needs to be figured out first, and then you get your building permit.
So a new engineer coming to Brentwood, the first thing we ought to do is have him go out and look at a number of situations with existing town roads. And then tell us, is it rational and reasonable to, adopt a plastic pipe option?
Well, I think we should get the engineering standards for both, and you guys can, and gals, people, can make a decision on what you feel is appropriate for the town of
But I
Brentwood.
think with some guidance from the engineer.
Yes, well, you get engineering standards, and once you have a town engineer, you have to ask them that question.
There's still always the
And we have a
variance
great one right here. I
process.
would,
I'm happy to weigh in, but you may want to get.
everybody's gonna weigh in, so,
I'm not gonna weigh in.
no, neither am I.
One's gonna go rogue. Like,
All right,
see
so
you-
we'll,
see ya.
Go rogue, I'd love to see you go rogue.
we'll revisit this topic.
So I'll just get back to Bob to let him know that we will be working on that, not this year, but next year.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll look at it. We're waiting for a town engineer. We need to revamp the process. We think they should maybe look at the process too, that they follow.
Okay.
Make sure that we're following the rules.
Got that, Doug? If I'm not there?
I went to the RPC meeting
Oh,
last
that-
week.
Yes, yes,
Um,
last week, yeah.
So they talked about the projects that were taken out of the 10-year plan, and disappointingly, I don't know if you have an update, but each of the commissioners were told that they could put like $5 million back in, but Commissioner Stevens was not putting our project back.
Yes, so it's based on what Dave said, it sounds like Counselor Stevens, she chose two projects that kind of like fit in the $5 million allotment. But all is not lost because I think a next step for us, and this is something, to talk to, Eric Turr and Melissa Litchfield and other folks at the state level about is if we can get just a little bit of help from the state for the local match. Dave is very much of the opinion that our project could be a good candidate for the Safer Streets, grant. Yeah, so I think that is a potential path forward for us. And so, I think that it's worth us following up on that with folks at the state level.
And Doug, would you comment on the suggestion of toll increases?
Oh, yeah. So, through the Gasset hearings, there was a lot of support for a toll increase to fund projects like ours and other projects that were not included in the 10-year plan. And the governor has already said that, and there was actually some momentum. Some of the counselors seemed open to it, even the Republicans, but the governor said that it's a non-starter for her. That she's completely shut it down. It's disappointing. I think it's a political calculation on her part, and a very one that is very unfortunate for not just us in Brentwood, but our state, because these projects are important not just for public safety, but for our economic future. So it's certainly disappointing, but yeah, the governor sort of drew a line in the sand there.
Toll funds can be diverted from the toll system? I thought that wasn't possible.
How did Commissioner Stevens articulate that? She made mention that given the demographic of where the toll was, that some of DOT could recognize high-risk areas other than 95, such as 125, and maybe consider doing some work on that. But they're currently focusing.
I think you're getting smoke blowing up your skirt. I think when push comes to shove, they're gonna say that toll revenue raised by the tolls is only going to be used on the turnpike system. Oh, I'm sorry. I think that you're going to be told when push comes to shove that toll revenue generated by tolls can only be used on the turnpike system.
They did.
And they're not gonna divert it.
In RPC's comment letter to the state, they had a bunch of different ideas for how the state could get funds to pay for some of these things. So.
And I really
mentioned Brentwood.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that Dave specifically mentioned our project and the Safer Streets for All grant, specifically by name, which I thanked him for. I really appreciated that. So we're just gonna keep pushing. I think that the advice that Councilor Stevens has given us, I think, is the correct advice. Is that we just need to keep up the advocacy. And keep up the pressure, because that's how these things eventually get done. And so we'll keep pushing.
Thank you. Anything else tonight?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please.